Now, in a few minutes, we will hear from the Senate Majority Leader, but at this time, will you please join me in welcoming to the stage Senator Lindsey Graham.
Really good. Thank you very much.
Do you want us to go straight?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, and obviously this is a friendly audience.
Thank you very much.
No worrying about being doxxed or protested or anything here. So I have to ask you, Senator, after this confirmation hearing, with the Supreme Court these days deciding so many contentious issues, the stakes so high, is this the new normal? Is this what we can now expect?
Well, if this is not bottom, I'd hate to see it, right? So I was pissed. So let me tell you why. So, how many of you know Brett Kavanaugh? I've known the guy for 20 years. We're not close friends, but we had a good working relationship. So this list, all right. Listen, I've come a long way in the Trump world. Probably like many of you. So, I ran out of adjectives, and I lost, and he won, and this is all working out okay. So when I saw that list, I said, thank God, because I thought he might pick Judge Judy. So I said, yes, we got something to work with here. So, and I really am offended when I'm told by a liberal what a mainstream conservative judge should look like. I know what a liberal judge looks like, Sotomayor and Kagan. Fine people, they're just liberal, right? You win, you get to pick. So Kavanaugh and Gorsuch are the greatest minds of their generation. That list is awesome, but these two picks were just incredible. So when the president does something like this, we should all get behind him as a nation. And what I saw was no rules, no boundaries. Isn't it kind of odd that we're picking somebody to protect the rule of law, but in the process we abandon it? I mean, that was the most ironic thing, but what really got me pissed was I actually know this guy. And I promise you, he was not a gang rapist in high school. If you're Bill Cosby in high school, you don't get over it.
Yeah.
So this got to be incredibly destructive to his family. Something happened to Dr. Ford, but I just don't believe Kavanaugh had anything to do with it. You have to have some system. I want every woman to be heard, but once you're heard, there has to be a process to decide, right? The accusation is just not enough. So if you have a son or a husband or, just put they got to have a system. So when they kept picking at him, and I thought Dr. Ford was handled respectfully. I thought Ms. Mitchell did a good job. But clearly when it came time to question Kavanaugh, it wasn't about anything other than just how much humiliation can you make this guy go through. So when, I think it was Durbin, I can't remember, turned to Don McGahn and asked to extend this investigation if you're truly innocent. What are you hiding? Why don't you want the FBI to keep looking? This man has had his life ruined, and you're asking him to continue an investigation, to continue to ruin his life, and you're accusing him, if I don't want to put my family through any more hell, I must be guilty. That's the Soviet Union. That's not America, and that's why I got pissed.
No, in fact, I thought you were great. You said it's not a question about whether you believed Dr. Ford or not. It's
about
is there corroboration, and is his denial any less believable?
Well,
I thought that was great.
I don't. Again, you don't have to. I've been a lawyer all my adult life. You wouldn't get out of the batter's box with this case. You got no time, no location, no corroboration. That's just where our legal system works. I'd hate to be a Republican charged with a crime in Hawaii. So some of the dumbest things I've ever heard said publicly came out of that hearing. And what was it all about? Wanting to win too badly. Susan Collins rocks, okay? So we're here among conservatives. I'm conservative. Sometimes you may not think so, but I think so. Susan Collins is a moderate from New England, but she represented the best in America. She went through why she voted yes. She was not intimidated by the mob mentality. She chastised them for making up their mind before they even knew who Kavanaugh was. And in the history of the Senate, I think her speech is going to be an example of what advise and consent is all about.
So another thing that was really bothersome about both this hearing and the Gorsuch hearing is that it's obvious that the Democrats are demanding from a nominee fealty to particular precedents that they like, and they want them to express favoritism to groups that they like, labor union, gay people, women, racial minorities. Last time I checked, Lady Justice wears a blindfold for a reason. But how do we get to this point?
Well, so when Ginsburg rule was a good rule when it was Ginsburg. Well, you don't expect a judge to decide a case in a confirmation hearing, do you? Would you vote for anybody that's going to tell you how they're going to decide a case before they heard the facts, read the briefs? But so they're looking for a reason to vote no. Ginsburg, Strom Thurmond. We change senators every 50 years in South Carolina where we need to or not. So I was born the year before he was elected. So I think I'm genetically term limited, but I'm going to hang in there as long as I can. He voted for Ginsburg, and, Hollings voted for Scalia. That's used to the way it be. Then Bork. Then Thomas, then Alito. Why is it always our people, right? So here's the deal. It blew up in their face, and they're not looking to find the truth. They're looking for a way to keep the seat open. And if you don't believe me, somebody on their side actually said that. So let's play a little game, role reversal. Democratic male nominee. Lady comes to me from South Carolina, like Dr. Ford, gives me an allegation. I withhold it from the committee, never mention it to the nominee. Somebody on my staff leaks it to the press without her consent. I recommend her a conservative lawyer who never told her that the Democrats would come to South Carolina if he wanted them to. They'd kill us. So what did we learn here? How in the tank the press really is when it comes. See, liberals believe it's an honorable endeavor to destroy a conservative judicial nominee. And the press believes it's honorable endeavor. If Ted Cruz or Lindsey Graham had said, we're trying to hold this seat open so we can replace the person down the road, they would crucify us. And the best outcome here is to deny them what they want the most. Power.
So, absolutely. We've got only a couple of minutes left, so I'll throw out a couple of things and you can answer whichever you'd like. So there are.
You asked a question. I'm gonna say whatever I want to say.
Fair enough. That works for me. That works for me. So one is you talked about bad behavior, and we certainly saw a lot of bad behavior during the Kavanaugh hearings, and you spoke about leaks, and there were leaks, and reputations were destroyed. So I guess I'll ask this question: is the Senate Judiciary Committee, in addition to all of its other business that it has to do, going to be looking into that?
I hope so. I think we should. I think Dr. Ford was betrayed. I can't believe her lawyers didn't tell her that we would actually have gone to California. I want to look into all that, don't you? So we will, because she don't want to reward those who did it by ignoring it. And when I said any Republican who votes against Kavanaugh is legitimizing the most despicable thing I've ever seen, I actually really meant that. And so here's the deal. What does this all mean? Whether you're a Bush Republican, a Trump Republican, a Tea Party Republican, a Libertarian Republican, a Vegetarian Republican, you're on the same sheet of music here. And I've never seen anything like it. Susan Collins, I think, represented the benefit of diversity in terms of having a big team. And we're off to the races. Everything is breaking our way. If you had asked a bid for the Heritage to come up with a plan to get Sean Hannity to raise money for Susan Collins on the radio, nobody could have done it. So to the Democrats, thank you very much for doing something we could never do.
So you've got, that's great. So you've got 154 current and future vacancies already been announced on the judiciary. A lot of work still to do. What can conservatives inside and outside the Beltway do to
Numbers matter. 51. We've done a lot with 51. Many days it's 50. Mitch McConnell coming behind me. This guy is incredibly smart. Please let him know you appreciate what he's done. On judges, he's been historic. He's been visionary. He's been smart. He's been strategic.
Well, speaking of Hannity, Senator, I know that that's where you've got to go at the moment. Yeah. So thank you for taking some time.
To be continued. God bless you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
See you.
Thank
Thanks
you very
so
much. Thank you very, very much.
So once more, the man I'm about to bring up to the stage, more than anybody else, is single-handedly responsible for saving the Supreme Court and the judiciary. I mean, he stood tough on Merrick Garland, and he and President Trump and actually outgoing White House counsel Don McGahn have been focused like a laser on the federal judiciary. The cavalry arrived just in time. So please join me in giving a rousing heritage welcome to the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I understand you just got to hear from Lindsey Graham. You know how the president, likes to give nicknames to people. Elizabeth Warren is Pocahontas. You noticed that Lindsey said he's going to have his DNA tested. Did he mention that to you? The president will probably soon be calling him Sitting Bull. I'm particularly pleased to be accompanied tonight by my roommate, an alum of the Heritage Foundation, both during the Clinton years and a major portion of the Obama years, the Secretary of Transportation, Elaine Chao, somewhere here. You know, I'm often asked what being the majority leader of the Senate's like, and I've finally come up with the best answer. It's a little bit like being the groundskeeper at a cemetery. Everybody's under you, but nobody's listening. So what is it that the majority leader gets to do that the other 99 don't get to do? What the majority leader gets to do is to decide what we're going to do, the schedule. And sometimes a decision about what not to do will be the most consequential thing you do. And my decision not to fill the Supreme Court vacancy during the 2016 election was the most consequential decision I've ever made. So I want to start with what I think this new majority has meant for the country. First of all, it's been the best Congress in the time I've been in the Senate, and I've been here a while. If you prefer America right of center, and I know most all of you do, you will not find a better Congress over the last 3 decades than this one. 2 Supreme Court justices, comprehensive tax reform, 16 uses of the Congressional Review Act to take Obama-era regulations off the books. Carving a big chunk out of Dodd-Frank, getting rid of the individual mandate, opening up ANWR in Alaska for exploration, and on and on and on and on. But the thing I'm the proudest of, and since I get to set the agenda, we decide in what order to do things, is the project to transform the courts. The single most long-lasting impact you can have on the country is through the court system. And the Senate is unique. We're in the personnel business. You know, you probably never stopped to think about that. The Senate and the House are quite different. They're not in the personnel business. We are. There are over 1,200 executive branch appointments that come to us for confirmation. Everything on the executive branch calendar can be done with a simple majority. So if you can keep your own people together, and frankly, from time to time, that's been a challenge. As you know, when Senator McCain went home in December and didn't come back, we were at 50-49. I mean, every day was a Maalox moment. Anybody got a funeral? You got to go to a wedding? We need you here. It was doubly challenging. But I want to say this on behalf of my colleagues. We confirmed every circuit judge. We've now done 29 circuit judges. That's a record for this quick in any administration in history. We're going to do some more circuit judges before the end of this year. And when they close the books on the 115th Congress, I think people will believe correctly that this has been the most consequential year for Congress, for conservatives, for people who prefer America right of center in at least 3 decades. And if you look at the judge project alone, the people, the men and women that the president's sending up are what we refer to as strict constructionists. I've always wondered why that bothers people. I mean, isn't that what a judge is supposed to do? Justice Scalia used to say, you're not a very good judge if you're not occasionally uncomfortable with the outcome you reach. Because it's not about your personal opinion. It's about what seems to be required by the law or the Constitution. He further went on to say, if you want to make policy, why don't you run for office? I had Justice Gorsuch down in Kentucky last year after his confirmation. This is the way he put it. The judges don't wear red robes. They don't wear blue robes. They wear black robes. And so the kind of people the president's been sending up and we've been confirming are the people who understand what the role of a judge is. President Obama really tipped his hand when he said he wanted to pick judges who had empathy. Think about that a minute. If you happen to be the litigant for whom the judge has empathy, you're in good shape. But what if you aren't? In other words, what they want to see on the courts is another branch of the Congress. Results-oriented people who will try to achieve through the court system what they could not get through the democratic process. So I hope you share my pride in this Congress. It is an extraordinarily accomplished Congress for conservatism. It's all going to be on the line 3 weeks from tonight. I assure you we will complete the job of transforming the federal judiciary with young men and women who understand what the role of a judge is. And that is the longest impact. If you think of all the things we do, and you want to make the longest possible impact on the country, it's through the court system. I love the tax bill. It was dramatically better than the comprehensive tax reform of 30 years ago. But I would remind you that the 30-year-ago comprehensive tax reform lasted 4 years. In other words, the political wind shifted, and when that happens, depending upon which side is up and which side is down, they go back at the tax code in one way or another to go after their particular priorities. So there isn't much permanency in this business, but the closest thing to permanency is the right kind of men and women on the courts. And as long And we did 2 things that were extremely important for the American people, and they were all watching this for all the obvious reasons. We stood up for 2 things. We said, number 1, the presumption of innocence does always apply in America. And number 2, we said we're not going to be intimidated by the mob that's getting in our faces in the Capitol and chasing our members home. So we stood up for the presumption of innocence. We refused to be intimidated by the mob. And we put a great new Supreme Court justice on the court for a lifetime appointment. So we're going down the home stretch. I want to end by thanking Kay. I have met a better friend over the years in the conservative movement than Kay Cole James. I think you've got a great chairman, president. We've always admired the Heritage Foundations. I said Elena spent a lot of time when she was out of government with you guys and being at events like this over the years. We appreciate all you do. And I think we ought to all have a good deal of pride that we've taken advantage of something that doesn't happen very often. And let me tell you what that is. Only 20 of the last 100 years, only 20 of the last 100 years, have the Republicans had the presidency, the White House, and the Senate at the same time. Democrats have had many periods of dominance. We've had a lot of periods of divided government. But only occasionally have we had all three. And I remember calling Don McGahn, who I knew was going to be the White House counsel, the week after President Trump was elected. And I said, Don, we have a chance here to make a lasting contribution to our country through the court appointments. And if we can get our act together and function efficiently, you get them up here and we'll confirm them and we'll change America for a very, very long time. And by golly, we have. So I want to thank Kay, and I want to thank all of you for this extraordinary organization which has contributed so much to the conservative movement over the years. You've given us great ideas. We've tried to implement as many of them as we could when we had these rare opportunities to control the agenda. But in any event, we'll be in there for the long haul. We need to stand up to these people. We need to stand up to them.